read it, if you can believe that.
Wow!
Yes, I know. It's startling. If we take seriously the idea that immigration laws that are being enforced, Arizona's measures seem rather modest. But Barack Obama thinks Arizona's effort to sustain the rule of law is irresponsible. Obama has said, "I've instructed members of my administration to closely monitor the situation and examine the civil rights and other implications of this legislation." Perhaps President Obama should have also instructed them to actually read Arizona SB 1070. These Washington politicians are driven not by the best interest of American citizens in total, but rather by the potential of gaining a unified Hispanic vote, both through current members of the Hispanic community and future members that they anticipate through amnesty. Let me note at this point, I have far too much respect for the members of what the media collectively calls the Hispanic community to believe that they will vote in lockstep manner that will weaken America. The history of legal immigrants in the Latin world is too replete with accomplishment and patriotism for me to believe they would favor destructive illegality at our borders because someone has grouped them with others by government decree. I just don't believe it. There are, of course, those politicians that are pressured to keep a flow of cheap labor coming into America. However, a 1997 study by the American Academy of Sciences found that the cheap labor of illegal immigrants and poor legal immigrants caused a 44% decrease in wages among the poorest Americans from 1980 to 1994. A 44% decrease. We can no longer suppress wages and jobs through employing illegals. One last item at this point. If these illegals are working jobs, as I've heard, that Americans won't work, what will happen if and when they become Americans? I would suggest the same thing will happen that happened in 1986 if the borders are not closed. Legalizing 3 million at that point to end the illegal immigration issue has led to the estimated 20 million illegals today. Make no mistake about it. Any negative reaction to the SB 1070 in Arizona is driven primarily by a recognition that it might work. Yes, it is the potential effectiveness of this bill that creates panic among those who gain through the weakening of America with open borders. Every illegal knows right now that if they make it past the border, there is almost no chance of being apprehended. There are approximately 6,000 federal immigration and customs enforcement agents to deal with 12 to 20 million immigration lawbreakers. The New York City Police Department, by comparison, has a current count of 35,000 police officers dealing with a population of 8 million, only a small portion of whom are lawbreakers. If, however, the Arizona law, and I think this is an important consideration, if, however, the Arizona law is emulated nationally, it would put 650,000 state and local police officers to the task of disrupting illegal immigration. That is their biggest fear. Wisdom has held for decades that the police cannot affect the commission of crime, but former New York Mayor Giuliani and his police chief William Bratton rejected that point of view. They charged New York City police with aggressively enforcing the laws. Crime was brought down 70% within a decade. Effective police work will do the same at the borders of America. The opponents of Arizona's law, SB 1070, test it not because it will lead to racial profiling. It will not and cannot. Nor because it is unconstitutional. It is not. But again, because it might work. The illegal immigration lobby knows it has to stop Arizona SB 1070 if it wants to maintain its monopoly over border matters. A monopoly that has led to the chaos that is now engulfing Arizona and threatens all of America. The history of most of those who support open borders is not driven by a concern for the immigrant, but only with what seems to be a concern with the damaging of traditional America. One of the main culprits in this totally unnecessary debate has been the far-left Ford Foundation, the largest tax-exempt foundation in the world. In their radical perspective, America is an oppressive nation. Many who are affected by this foundation's anti-Americanism derive a diminished view of American citizenship and see open borders as a way only of attacking America and ending that oppression. MALIF, the Mexican-American Legal Defense and Education Fund, has received virtually all of its funding from the Ford Foundation, which has shaped its radical leadership and radical agendas. Again, the open borders argument is not about immigration. It is about an attempt to weaken America. In a like manner, the media and public demonstrations currently attacking Arizona are not about immigration. They are political assaults on America itself. Let's just back up for one moment. I hear from the political left and much of the mainstream media that America is anti-immigrant. What nonsense. America has historically taken in more immigrants than the rest of the world combined. We certainly have, therefore, an unusual way of showing our dislike for immigrants. I hear that America is anti-Mexican. Again, what nonsense. Mexicans are one of the three largest groups of legal immigrants, along with Filipinos and Indians. The negative mythologies spread about this most generous and giving of nations are repugnant. Although many previous presidential administrations have not served us well as it pertains to open borders, the current executive and his staff seem particularly committed to demonizing the Arizona Patriots, even though most of them have admitted that they never read the bill. Our president, who was sworn to defend our security, has sided with President Calderon of Mexico against his own citizens and his own rule of law. This is also true of Janet Napolitano, head of Homeland Security, Attorney General Eric Holder, both of whom condemned the Arizona bill again without reading it. Michael Posner, Assistant Secretary of State, has compared the Arizona action with the heinous actions of historic communist China. China that murdered millions of its citizens, that opposed the government's communist policies, and that allowed most of its people little or no freedom. Many who try to penetrate China's draconian immigration policies wind up quite dead. The attitudes of our president are more designed to appeal to left-wing groups like La Raza, The Race, the Mexican-American Legal Defense and Education Fund, and, of course, the editorial board at the New York Times, rather than helping Americans. Obama, Posner, Holder, Napolitano, and their ilk have chosen to stand with the lawbreakers and have turned their back on Americans and the obvious needs of America. The need to close our borders, the need to build high walls with wide gates is critical. Those high walls must keep out everyone we have not measured as someone we want in our country. It must keep out... It must keep out all illegals. It must keep out the estimated 165,000 per year that enter who are not Mexican. We must keep out those that might be from terrorist-supporting nations who represent a serious threat to national security. We must keep out drugs. We must keep out drugs and drug dealers, and we must protect all of our citizens from the violence spreading around the world. We must ensure that our resources, medical, educational, and social services can be allocated in some predictable and controllable manner. The wide gate of America must only swing open to those we have measured, those that we have screened, and those that can demonstrate that their intention is to leave behind the world they're running from and are willing, able, and committed to be Americans, accepting our laws, respecting our Constitution, and joining with all of us to prevent our border from being penetrated by anyone who will not enhance the American nation and who must be entering by invitation only.